Hi
What?
there. This is Erica Merrill. I am the founder of Perfect Legal Video, and I'm very excited because today I am going to be interviewing attorney Daniela Romero out of Pasadena, California. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Erica? I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. And we were just talking about how we just had a whole bunch of snow dumped on us here in the Boston area. And you were saying that when you look out, you can see snow in Pasadena?
Yeah, actually, we can see snow in the mountains because it's been raining the past few weeks. In fact, this morning it was raining a lot too. So then the snow level, comes down on the mountains. So we get to see snow.
Hmm. Do you ski?
Very minimally. I grew up in New York, so we didn't ski very much in the Bronx, but I have learned.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Well, skiing is not one of my fortes, so I'm happy for all of my skiing friends because there's plenty of powder out there right now, and it looks like we're in for a lot of snow this season. So I'm just gonna move in with you for a while.
Okay.
Be right
That's
out.
fine.
Oh,
On January 1st, we have the Rose Parade, first or second, depending upon the year. But when it's nice and sunny out here and, the sun is shining and we have our parade, usually people get a little bit jealous.
yes, and I'll be one of those people. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is a pretty interesting topic, and it's wage garnishments in bankruptcy during the holidays, and we're going to be talking about tips for that. But I'd like to back up and just talk about the reason somebody would have a wage garnishment, what percentage of their income, I mean, that sort of thing, and see, like, just give us a little background on this topic before we hit the holiday piece.
Yeah, a wage garnishment is just a procedure, by which usually there's a court-ordered judgment against somebody for money, or it could be an IRS debt, or, for us in California, an EDD debt, that's the employment, department over here. But usually it's not more than 25% of somebody's pay, and their employer would be required to, just take that money, from the person's paycheck to pay the levying officer and ultimately the creditor.
Okay, so that's interesting. So they just take the payment and then they just make the payments evenly amongst all of your creditors. Is that right?
No, there are no wage garnishments usually in bankruptcy. It's before the bankruptcy where there's a wage garnishment. And the person or the entity has to get a judgment against somebody and then ask the court for a writ in order to garnish wages or levy on bank accounts. And if it's the IRS or the EDD here in California, then that's a different story. They don't need a judgment.
Oh, I see. So wage garnishments can happen whether or not you are planning on filing for bankruptcy. And it may, in fact, be a reason to file for bankruptcy if you see that this is becoming an issue and you just can't make ends meet and you go deeper into the hole. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. And a lot of times people come to me because they have garnished wages and they can't, make ends meet, and they want to get rid of the debt.
Ah, okay, I see. So not only are they getting calls from creditors and just the stress is building up and they can't pay certain bills, but they're also getting pieces of their paycheck taken out. And so it's just they're living well below their means at that point,
Yeah, that's
above their
correct.
means. Is that how you say
Well,
well,
they're not making their debts met at that point. They can't pay their utilities, or they can't pay for their children's school, or there's all a host of things, or their rent. So it just makes life hard to live when you're wages are being garnished.
So that'll bring us to the holidays. I mean, this is the time where you've got, I've seen some memes on some of the social media outlets about how, this is supposed to be a joyful season and a happy season, but, for a lot of people, it's very stressful. There's a lot of expectations. How do you meet these expectations and still have a happy holiday? Like, where's the medium when you have your wages garnished and you maybe don't have as much as you used to meet some of those expectations around the holidays?
Well, it makes it very hard. I mean, for some people, they may not want to file bankruptcy, so they'll allow the garnishment to continue and they'll just, have less money to live off of. A lot of times I've had people come in that situation where they've been garnished for a while and they think they've paid off all the debt. And then all of a sudden they owe more money because they, don't realize that interest is still being added to the debt as you're making that payment. Of course, it's being taken from you involuntarily, but it just depends on the person's situation. If they really can't, make ends meet, then they may want to consider the bankruptcy. But the first thing you have to look at is, what kind of debt is it? Is it from the IRS, EDD, or is it a judgment against you? And what is it for? Is the debt even yours? And is the amount correct? So those are initial things that you would want to look at.
Do they still add late fees and that sort of thing while your wages are being garnished?
Yeah. There's, interest that's being added, and you may think you've paid it all off. And then, after that last garnishment, is taken, you may get something else from the court filed by an attorney saying that, now there's an additional interest being added.
Hold on 1 second.
Are you bringing me your paycheck?
Yeah, I went to bring you my paycheck. One of my employees got locked out in the cold.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't leave her out there peeking in the window. Sorry about that. So yes, my paycheck. Thankfully my paycheck is not being garnished. That's always a happy thing for the holidays. So people are deciding to just keep that garnishment up. What are some of the tips that you would have? How do they decide whether they should file for bankruptcy when their paycheck's being garnished?
Well, they should definitely go see an attorney so that the attorney can, just analyze the full situation. And, like I said, what kinds of debt is it? If it's something through the IRS or EDD, they may be able to get into an installment agreement or do an offer in compromise, for the debt. If it's a judgment, also, is the debt yours? And what other kind of debts the person has. So there are things that need to be analyzed, and every situation is different. So the person should just go in and talk to an attorney. Most, bankruptcy attorneys will have free consultations. We have a free consultation. You let everybody know all of their options, whether it's bankruptcy or not.
One question I had for you is, you've said a few times, and I'm sure you have a checklist of things that they need to look at when they're considering bankruptcy. But one thing that you've said that has been an interesting thing is check that the debt is even yours. Are we referring to when somebody's identity might have been mistaken or taken or stolen, or are there other situations where for some reason they have the wrong person holding the wrong person responsible for that debt?
Yeah, that's possible. And that's, really why, any attorney would want to, take a look at the judgment, for instance, and see, just delve a little further into all of that information and, see if there hasn't been a mistake.
That makes a lot of sense. you need to get all of that taken care of. And I know that there's a lot of responsibility in life in general. And so when you have a whole bunch of bills, and like even just today, I was looking at my credit card statement and I noticed that somebody was charging it $60 a month for something I maybe signed up for 1 month 2 years ago. And I'm thinking, I actually thought I took care of that already with them. And when I saw that mistake before, and now I'm still seeing it. So checking your credit cards and your other bills on a regular basis is a good thing, especially when you're considering going bankruptcy, to make sure that you even need to do that.
Yeah. And there are other things that you can do, more immediate things. So if, you're really low income and, or you have a lot of people in your household that you're taking care of, there are things you can do in the state court that not file bankruptcy, or even use it to stop the garnishment prior to filing bankruptcy. There's something in California called a claim of exemption, which is a state court remedy. And you would have to reapply each year, or you just file bankruptcy. But with the application, you're basically filling out a form and your financial information, and you're sending it off to the levying officer. And so there's a possibility that you may stop the garnishment, at least temporarily.
I see. So those are all really great pieces of information for people that are considering bankruptcy around the holidays and may already have a garnishment or possibly be looking at getting a garnishment soon. I wonder if I feel like we've covered almost everything. I like to open it up at the end. Obviously, if you have questions about this, you should absolutely see an attorney. And if you're in the Pasadena area, you should see Attorney Daniela Romero. Are there any stories or other facts that we may have missed before I let you go today?
Well, yeah. First, I'd like to say that there are other options. One is you can pay the debt, borrow the money and just pay the debt. You can try to negotiate a settlement with the creditor or their attorney, whoever is, the contact. Usually they're going to want a lump sum. And, if it's tax debt, like I said, maybe you do an installment agreement and to stop the garnishment. The bankruptcy, the benefit of the bankruptcy is that it stops the garnishment debt in its tracks. It also will get rid of the debt, usually. And, it's not something that you have to keep reapplying for every year. I've had a lot of people come in, and most recently I had a guy come in that, he had 2 children, and his girlfriend that he was taking care of. And, although he was doing a lot of overtime, the garnishments kept coming and it was making it very hard for him to pay all of his bills. So we filed the bankruptcy and stopped the garnishment. I was able to get back 90 days of, garnishments. So from the date of filing, there's a look back period of 90 days and I could get back garnishments or return to him, as long as it's over $600. So we got like almost $3,000 back for him.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, that's a nice holiday bonus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea you could do that. That's great. So the 90-day look back period is going to help out with wage garnishments, and you may in fact get some of that money back.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that a lot of people don't know about, but when they find out about it, or they feel really happy once they receive that check too.
Oh, I'm sure that they do. I'm sure that they were glad that they hired you. So that's really great. That's great news. So keep that in mind, everyone. If you find yourself in a tough situation, first of all, Daniela Romero will be able to help take you through all of the different things that you need to know about bankruptcy before you file. And there might even be some added benefits that you haven't thought of yet. Also, some of the debt may not even be yours. So there's a lot of things that we've learned here today that have been quite eye-opening. And, I absolutely think you should refer anyone to Daniela Romero that may have some questions in this area, including yourself if these are things that you're considering. She's very down to earth. She's very intelligent. She knows her stuff, and she can help you look at the entire situation thoroughly and come up with the best options for your specific situation. So I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate having you.
Thanks, Erica, and happy holidays to everybody.
We'll be back next week with some other interesting information, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much for coming on.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.